We knock off Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins. We're going to be Olympic teammates several months later. The road was lined with people and fans, and I'll never forget that greeting after being able to win an Olympic gold medal. This is the most incredible feeling we've ever had.
Welcome inside the office of Nevada head basketball coach Steve Alford. 1984, 40 years since you won a gold medal in the Olympics for Team USA. I imagine as you get to this kind of a milestone, you start getting flooded back with some pretty incredible memories.
Yeah, and when we decided we wanted to do this, it was good to get in the bin and pull out something from '84 that still fits. The uniform, the sweats aren't going to fit, so it was good to have at least one piece of apparel that fits. But yeah, pretty special, especially knowing that the Olympiad, the Olympics are coming back to Los Angeles in 2028. So that'll be the 44th year since we opened it up in Los Angeles in '84.
All right, we got to talk about this jacket. We're going to get to some of the swag later because you've got like this incredible collection of stuff. This is like an old champion jacket.
And
like
these
starter
as you mentioned,
jackets
Champion
are
has
huge.
come back. So, but they were one of the sponsors of USA Basketball. So it's pretty cool.
And you were happy it still fits.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll show you the short shorts. The short shorts,
Those
you're probably
will
not getting in those anymore.
No, those will not.
You have been able to accomplish so many amazing things in your career as both a player and as a coach. I mean, you won a national championship as a player at Indiana. You've been to Sweet 16s as a coach. You've been coaching for over 30 years. When you look at all of the things that you've done in your career, where does the Olympics and playing for Team USA and playing for your coach, Bobby Knight, I mean, where does that kind of rank for you?
Yeah, it's way up there for sure. It's hard to put in perspective just because I'm so blessed in basketball, Alex. To play for my dad in high school in the largest and finest high school gym in the world, it seated 10,000, and sell that out every home game my junior and senior year was special. And then to go off to Indiana, which was my dream school, that when Coach offered me at lunch hour, called my dad up at lunch hour and offered me a scholarship, and he couldn't pull me out of the lunchroom quick enough for me to say yes. And then in our first year, where we didn't have a lot of expectations, they just won a national title in '81, and the '83 team had done a lot of good things, and now we had a lot of new faces in '84, '83-'84 season. And we go to the Elite Eight. We knock off Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins. We're going to be Olympic teammates several months later when they were #1 ranked North Carolina and Atlanta in the Omni. And then we lost to Virginia by a bucket and to go to the Final Four. So it was a very special first year. The year before I was named Mr. Basketball. Coach Neal and I were on the same Indiana All-Star team. So, it's just surreal when you think about it. During that time period, I go from representing the state of Indiana to then going to Indiana University, representing that university in basketball. And then just several months later, I'm on a team that is representing the entire country. So it was just a whirlwind, but it was a time in my life I'll never forget.
All right, so take me through how this all kind of came about. So your coach, Bobby Knight, legendary coach, somebody I know that you have a very strong affinity and have always had a great respect and relationship with, so he's the head coach for Team USA. How did the entire process kind of play out where you were able to have the opportunity to basically try out for this team and make the team?
Yeah, it's something growing up I didn't really think about because back in the 80s, there was no pros. So no pros could play. So it was only collegiate players, and usually that meant you had to be a junior or senior. And it was going to hit, the '84 was going to hit me right in my freshman year. So it's almost like I almost know I got no shot. But then I had a really good freshman year. I averaged over 15.5 points. We go to the Elite Eight. We have a really good team. We're nationally ranked. So I have that momentum going, and then obviously it helps when your collegiate coach is going to be the coach of the Olympics that year. I just remember I was in a dorm, Reed dorm in Bloomington. Really got no mail. It was really mom. And when I say no mail, I really appreciated the mail I got from mom, because those were always great things that you went. But I just go to my mailbox and all of a sudden open up a letter, and it's from the USA Olympic Basketball Committee saying I'm one of 77 players that have been invited to the Olympic trials in Bloomington. And so to me, that was that was enough for me.
Like, hey, this is good.
Yeah,
just getting a chance.
Just to get a chance to do that was enough. But then to actually go through the trials, and I started to understand that in really looking at international play, you needed to have a couple shooters because at that time, that era, a lot of the international teams played zone. And when you got the likes of Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins and Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullin, there were some locks for that team. I became somebody of interest to the coaching staff because of my ability to shoot the basketball. And then I think in the end, having somebody on the team that could talk to the team and explain to them Coach Knight. And I'd only been there a year, but just to explain what's going to happen, why we're in 3-a-days, why this takes place, how he's going to give us a day off, the mental game that's going to be played. And so, and I just started playing well. I think it went from 77, and then Coach cut it to like 32 to 36. Then it went to 20, and I just kept playing well. I was very fortunate. I was playing very, very well, and I made it to the final cuts. And Johnny Dawkins and Chuck Persons ended up being alternates, and I was one of 12 then that made the Olympic team. And you know, Alex, when you think about it, we were the last Olympic team to win gold because in '88 they lost, and then in '92 they opened it up to pros, and we've had dream teams ever since. But you know, you look at that team of people that didn't make it: Danny Manning, Roy Tarpley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Terry Porter, Mark Price. I mean, you're looking at, and then I mentioned Johnny Dawkins, Charles Barkley, who was my roommate throughout the trials, which was very interesting. Sharing a room with Charles was very, very interesting at that time. But you could have, the people that got cut or was removed from the team at the time, they probably could have comprised of their own Olympic team. That's how good those Olympic trials were.
Still to come on this special NSN Conversation with Steve Alford.
I saw his competitiveness. He competed at everything. Every drill that Coach put us through, he did it as hard as he could, and he wanted to win every drill.
Coach talks about being teammates with arguably the greatest to ever suit it up, Michael Jordan. You weren't just on the team. Right. You know, you weren't there just to kind of fill this void of, hey, I'm going to be the communicator for Coach Knight. You were a strong contributor on that team. You're talking about somebody that averaged over 10 points a game in the Olympics as a freshman in college, you know, surrounded by all the talent that you were. So I imagine you had to be very pleased with the way that you were able to perform, not only to make the team, but you were actually a huge contributor on that team. Yeah,
I hope so. You know, I did everything I could, and I think being a good teammate and helping them navigate Coach Knight, he's definitely a different coach. He's, you know, you're playing, you got some playing for Dean Smith, you got some playing for C.M. Newton, you got for all over the country, different coaching styles. So I think at least in the locker room, I was able to help them have a good understanding. You know, Vern Fleming looked at me one day and he said, hey, what's going to happen today? And we've had 3 really good practices in a row. What's going to happen? And I said, hey, it wouldn't surprise me, Vern, if about 2 drills in, Coach punts a ball and goes crazy and kicks us out. And Vern's like, why would he do that? And I'm like, he does that because he wants to physically give us a day off, but mentally he wants us knowing he's upset with how we're playing so that when we come back off our day off. And to a T, Alex, that practice we did 2 drills and Coach went nuts, kicked us out, and you would thought Vern had a great career at Georgia and then with the Pacers, and you thought he'd seen a ghost, that I was a prophet during that time. But as you mentioned, there was four of us averaged in double figures. I was one of them. You know, when you look at the likes of Jordan, Ewing, and Mullen being the other 3, I think I shot in the 60 percentile from the floor. That was the last Olympiad without a 3-point line. So even the shots you were taking from 19 to 20 feet were still only 2-pointers. And then 88, FIBA introduced it. The FIBA actually introduced it in 84, but it didn't pass in time for the 84 Olympics. And then when 88 came around, that was the first Olympiad with a 3-point line. All right, so you rattled off some of the incredible players that were on that team. Obviously, Michael Jordan is the one that stands out the most, one of the greatest to ever play the game of basketball. But at that time, I don't think anyone really knew maybe that Michael Jordan was going to end up being arguably the greatest basketball player to ever do it. But what was it about him, maybe early in your interactions with him, that you could kind of tell this guy is going to be special? Yeah, because he was really just coming on. I think as a sophomore in high school, he got cut from his high school team, and they only spent 3 years at Carolina. He hit a big shot, obviously, to win a national title at Carolina, and then to lose to Indiana his last year. At least I'd always going to have something on him at that time. But the thing that I think really came to the forefront as we went through each month of the summer, this guy was just special. Athletically, he was special. Big hands, long arms. But I saw his competitiveness. He competed at everything. Every drill that Coach put us through, he did it as hard as he could, and he wanted to win every drill. Every matchup, Coach could put him with 4 guys that were way out of position, and he's, okay, we're still going to win. So his competitiveness was great. Obviously, his talent and athleticism was way off the charts of any of us that were on that team. But Alex, he kept getting better. He would challenge Mullen and I to shooting contest after every practice. I tell this to campers now on my team that I wish I'd have challenged him to one-on-one games, because that would have helped me. It would have helped me guard people. It would have helped me offensively. But I thought it was pretty cool that he was wanting to challenge Mullen and I, and Mullen and I we won more of those shooting games than what Mike did. And yet, when you look at Michael's career, just every year he got better and better at shooting the basketball, and then eventually became elite at it. So we knew he was going to be special, everybody on the team, but obviously we didn't know. I got some shoes, I got some balls. I wish if I'd have known it was going to be the GOAT, I'd have had a lot more stuff autographed.
Now, you were telling me that you had just come off of a season where you actually beat him in college to get to the Elite Eight.
Right.
I know you, as Steve Alford today, you're going to be reminding people a lot about that. At that time, were you reminding Michael Jordan that you had just gotten
I just remember, I don't know the date, but at some point years down the road, the Omni was imploded because they built a new arena in Atlanta. And that day when they actually showed it on TV of just the whole building imploding, and I sent that video to Mike, and I told him what a tough day for our country to see this building go down.
Coming up next on our Steve Alford Olympic Special.
I'd like to tell you they shrunk, but I don't know how in the world we wore these kind of shorts back then, but these were our game shorts.
A glimpse of the Olympic swag from 1984. All right, let's talk swag, because you've got a lot of it. You mentioned the jacket still fits you perfectly.
Yeah.
Since 1984. These, however...
I'd like to tell you they shrunk, but I don't know how in the world we wore these kind of shorts back then, but these were our game shorts.
I think the next family member that's going to be able to fit into these is probably going to be, what, one of your grandkids?
Yeah, it's like AJ and Kai. They're 2 and 1. They might be able to fit
That'll
those.
give them like 5 years or something.
Yeah.
10 years they'll be able to fit into those. All right, so you got the shorts. Tell me about this.
These are cool because these are what's worn every Olympiad. This changes.
Come on.
And so you got USA on the back. So every sport on the men and women's side gets the same sweat. So this is what you wear, whether it's opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies. You might have a little bit different sweatsuit, but this will be all the metal. So you see this sweatsuit on every medal, like bronze, silver, gold. This was the Olympic patch. And what's kind of cool that, I just like, you got the tag that says exclusively made for the 84 Olympic team. So it's kind of cool. You don't see tags like that. Yeah, the gold medal and the ring. So the ring's cool. It's got USA in the middle of it. Olympic champions, 8 diamonds for the 8 teams that we beat. The final score, 96-65 against Spain. So that's kind of a cool ring to have. And then the medal kind of speaks for itself. It's changed a lot now, and they've changed medals. It used to be the same medals, same design. The only thing that was different was men's basketball or gymnastics or women's swim and dive, whatever it was that you won. And the ribbons would change out every Olympiad. These were our colors of the Olympiad in Los Angeles. So those colors change every year. So not sure what this year's Olympiad colors are going to be yet. I haven't seen that, but the 3 colors change every Olympiad.
You look at this team and you look back later and you realize the people that are on this team. You've rattled off Michael and some of the others. How did you guys feel like you actually competed on the floor? Because when you got into the games, you guys obviously had a tremendous success, didn't lose, right, in the entire tournament. So you obviously had a great cohesiveness. What was that like, the chemistry of the team?
It was, and again, I give Coach and his staff all the credit because you're taking people from all over the country, different styles, playing styles, and how they're coached. And so to all of a sudden do that in like a 3-month period, to cut it down to a team and then get that team ready in a 3-month period, I give the coaching staff a ton of credit. And it was a great group of guys we had. And I think, again, the coaches did a good job of piecing together what needed, from size to athleticism to shooting to playmaking and decision making. The one thing I do remember is that was a team that all had very high basketball IQs, and we didn't beat ourselves. We were a low turnover team. We played the Indiana alum, and then we played 8 NBA All-Star put-togethers all across the country, and we beat them. We beat all of them in that time. There's a picture on my wall where we played in the Hoosier Dome in front of 67,000 people. I never dreamed that was going to happen. So just the experiences of then going into the Olympics and beating all 8 of those teams and winning a gold medal game by 30 plus. It was just a very special team. Great group of guys, great people before they were great players.
In terms of the way you played on the court during the Olympics, when you're talking about leading your team in scoring against France and West Germany, you set an Olympic record by going 8 for 8 from the field. I think you shot like 65% in the tournament. Of those things, like, what kind of stands out the most?
Well, I haven't been to France. Of all my travel, I haven't been there. So maybe somebody in that country, just because of the performance I had, I could have an experience in France. But it was just one of those special things that it was a game where I shot the ball well, and you get an awful open looks when you're playing with the guys that I played with, so you should be able to make a lot of those horse shots. But that was to now, years later, to be able to, you coaching international kids, and you can bring up how, this was one game where I didn't miss a shot against this country. It's pretty cool.
Coming up, Coach Alford talks about standing on the podium as Team USA takes home Olympic gold. Now, you look back at these games, and you had mentioned, 2028, the games are coming back to Los Angeles. So that'll have been 44 years since you guys won this gold medal. What kind of pride did you take in the fact that you were not only competing in the Olympics, but you were doing it on your home turf? You were doing this in the United States. You were doing this in Los Angeles. Like, what extra layer did that add to, like, that kind of national pride?
Well, it was very special because my family could be involved. My mom and dad were able to come out. They brought my brother. They flew Tanya out, who was my girlfriend at the time, and later would be my fiance and my wife. But at the time, as a freshman, she was my girlfriend, and for her to be able to come out and experience that, and then not knowing we were going to end up spending a life together, to look back at that time was very, very special memories of being able to do that. And then my mom and dad had driven out, so we had this van, and Tanya, they flew her back, and then after the Olympics were over, my brother, my mom and dad, and I made a cross-country trip back to Newcastle in this van, seeing different sights along the way, obviously, and then coming into Newcastle. It's about a 5-mile stretch, taking us all the way into Newcastle. It was just lined. The road was lined with people and fans, and I'll never forget that greeting after being able to win an Olympic gold medal.
Take me back to, you talked about that gold medal game, but standing there and somebody handing you a gold medal and wearing it around your neck. Yeah. I imagine as an athlete, there's not a feeling that is much more special than that. What do you kind of remember about that particular moment?
Yeah, I think growing up, when you'd watch the Olympiads, whether it be the Winter Olympics or the Summer Olympics, that's something you'd always remember. There's 3 levels of a stage, and ultimately you want to be on the highest level of the stage and stand above everyone and see your flag being raised higher than the other flags, and then it's your anthem. They don't play the anthem to silver and bronze. They only play the anthem to gold, and I'll just never forget that, because you always honor your flag and you stand at attention. But I can remember being on that stage with our Olympic team, and halfway through it was just like a celebration going through the line of, this is the most incredible feeling we've ever had.
When you think of the Olympics, obviously there's the games that you get to play in, there's all the different ceremonies that you're a part of, but you're also surrounded by insane talent in other sports, and you think about 1984, who are some of the other athletes and standout people that you were kind of in the same sphere with?
I thought that was the coolest thing, that because you grow up watching all the sports, whatever TV goes to, you're getting to watch those sports, and you actually see some sports you've never seen live before, and that was so fun. Greg Louganis was arguably one of the best divers of all time, and he was in those Olympics. You had track stars like Edwin Moses and Carl Lewis and Jackie Joyner-Kersee, and I mean, you just had phenomenal track athletes. And then we're on a van one day, and all of a sudden they pull up, and we're in and out. USC was our Olympic Village, so we're on our way to practice. But sometimes you had to pick up another team, and all of a sudden here's all these big guys, not me, but all these 7-footers and size that we have, and coach opens up the door, and in comes our Olympic women's gymnastics team. And you're talking about going from this to this, very, very small. And you got Mary Lou Retton, you got all these ladies that were going to put the Olympics on call for being one of the best gymnasts ever. Pernell Whitaker, I remember having lunch with him. Mully and I were having lunch, and we were big boxing fans, and we were eating breakfast with Pernell Whitaker, and we started talking about how big boxing fans. Well, we wear all this big headgear and they're big gloves, so it's hard to knock people out, but I'm fighting later this afternoon. If you can watch the TV, I'm going to knock this dude out. And sure enough, we go up to our room, we watch it, and he knocks this guy out. And so you had Pernell Whitaker in boxing. And then the women's side, we were known as double gold. If you look at all the posters, they're of the men and the women together. You had Pat Summitt leading, that team, and Cheryl Miller's on that team. There's so many great players that they had, and they didn't lose. They were, so it was a double gold type of deal. So to be able to just see all those athletes and different sports was a lot of fun and something you'll remember for a long time.
It is coming back to Los Angeles. Do you anticipate going and wanting to be there in LA when the Olympic Games come in 2028?
Yeah, absolutely. I got heavy into the portal this year, and with recruiting and a lot of some travel and camps and stuff, it's been hard to try to get everybody together. I've been able to stay in touch with a lot of them, playing with Sam, and obviously watching Michael's career go, and Patrick played for a long time, Hall of Fame career, and then he got into coaching. I saw him out on the road when he was at Georgetown. Mully and I have stayed in touch because he's been here on the West Coast, and I was a teammate of Mully with Golden State. So Mully and I go way back. And so just very special memories to be able to go back there, hopefully in 4 years, and reunite as a team would be a lot of fun.
Coach, what a treat.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing all these
Alex.
stories. That was
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right. Don't forget, Nevada basketball season coming up around the corner. November 4th is the opener against Sam Houston State. Get your tickets, NevadaWolfpack.com. And for more coverage of both the Wolfpack and the Olympics, you can check that out at NevadaSportsNet.com. We'll see you guys next time.